So I've, worked in government for about 38 years. I worked in both the North and the South Bloc, both of whom managed to block just about everything in government. And I worked in the state of Kerala, and these are very exciting times. This is truly the age of innovation. This is truly the age of disruption. And this is the age of disruption because India is the only country in the world which has 1 billion mobile, which has 1 billion biometric. India is the only country which is going to disrupt in a very big way simply because the brick and mortar will be dead. Our e-commerce market is just 16 billion, just 16 billion. By 2020, we would have grown about 8 times larger. But by 2025, this will be close to about a 400 billion market. We've just started the growth path. Simply because every minute in India, there are about 5 Indians who take to internet. We have 32% people with internet. By 2020, we'll have 59% with internet. By 2030, every single Indian will have internet. Every single Indian will have a smartphone. And every single business will be driven by a smartphone. And that will radically revolutionize India. And to my mind, the important thing is not that it will radicalize business, but it will enable millions of Indians to be lifted above the poverty line. The cost of transaction will radically fall down. It'll come down. Today, if it is about 1,500 rupees, it'll come down to as low as 10 rupees. And to my mind, it may come down even to 2 rupees. But it will enable a vast segment of Indians to be lifted above the poverty lines. So no country in the world has this many number of people with smartphone. No country in the world has this many people with biometrics. No country in the world has such a large population and such a large latent demand. And no country in the world has a population where 72% of the people are below the age of 32. No country in the world has that. And therefore, India is in the midst of radical innovation, and India is in the midst of a disruptionist phase which will disrupt the life of each one of us. When the Chennai Flood happened, Social Corp, its app was able to provide assistance and support to the government to enable assistance to be provided to the distressed people in Chennai. 2 young people running an app called Social App. Look at a girl like Pranshu Bhandari. She ran Culture Alley. She started an app called Hello English. Last year, in 1 year, she's educated 8 million Indians how to speak English. How to speak English. It was posted to tourism sector. And that time, Kerala was a mass tourism. It was a low-value destination. Nobody had heard of Kerala as a tourism destination at that point of time. We created the backwaters of Kerala. We did everything that the West was known for in tourism. We did an antithesis of everything that the West did. We said we'll not copy and not ape the West, but we'll do a Kerala model of tourism development. We went back to Kerala's root. We went back to the backwaters of Kerala. We revived Ayurveda not as a massage, but as a regimen over a long period of time. All that we brought back center stage, and actually Kerala tourism grew because the discerning traveler, the world of tourism by that time had moved over from sun, sand, and sea to the alert, independent traveler who wanted to know and see the destination as it existed. And then we branded Kerala as God's own country, and we said we are going to market it only for the upmarket, the high-value tourists, and not for mass destination. About a month later, the New York Twin Tower blast happened. There was war in Afghanistan, there was attack on our parliament, there were travel advisories against India, and we had very few hotels then, but the hotel occupancy came down to 18 to 20%. And the hoteliers started saying, sir, that there's just no demand. There's no demand. Nobody is coming to India. So what do you do? And that was at a point of time when the entire, globally, travel and tourism was not moving. So we went to the tour operators, we said, those days tourism used to be sold through tour operators, brochures, so we said, we'll finance you, we'll support you, you put pages on India. They said, sir, even if you put pages on India, it will not help because there's no demand for India. So the challenge was to revive consumer demand, and at the peak of that, at the peak of the crisis, when Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia had all stopped their marketing, we launched the Incredible India campaign. And Incredible India campaign went on to do extremely well in global markets. We did a 360-degree campaign. We went to the net, we went into the key markets, we used electronic media, we used the CNN, we used the BBC, and it did extremely well, and it brought back tourism in a very, very big way. Tourism grew at that point of time. It grew enormously, and actually the demand grew. And therefore, because the demand grew, it forced open the Indian skies, which were extremely closed. And international carriers came in, new domestic carriers grew, young carriers grew, all this Deccan and many other young carriers grew, and therefore the demand grew. And the pressure of demand really led to the opening and creation of new airports. Hyderabad, Bangalore, Chennai, Mumbai was all the pressure of demand growing. We created new products of medical tourism, a whole range of new products we created, ecotourism, all this. And therefore, the Incredible India campaign actually led to a huge, huge growth. Tourism is a multi-sectoral activity. It cuts across many sectors, and therefore it's very important that tourism has a huge potential to create jobs. It has a huge potential to drive our economy. It's got a huge potential to have a massive multiplier effect in our economy, and India hasn't tapped that at all. And India needs to push that in a very, very vigorous, very concentrated manner in the days to come. You know, I was posted later, I went back to Kerala. When I came back, I was posted as the CEO of the Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor, and this is one of the most challenging projects because urbanization will be a very key driver of growth. India is going to see, if you go by the McKinsey studies, 700 million people in the process of urbanization. And when America, Europe, and China urbanized, land, gas, and water were cheaply available. They are all scarce commodities. You will not have land, you will not have gas, you will not have water, and therefore you need to do very innovative and sustainable urbanization. So, if you produce goods in the northern part of India, it today takes you 14 days for goods to reach the ports on the western coast of India, 14 days. But by 2018 beginning, there'll be a dedicated freight corridor, a train which will run from Delhi to Mumbai, and it'll put only containers, no passengers, only containers. It'll put containers within 14 hours. So from 14 days to 14 hours will be the paradigm shift in India. And it'll radically reduce the cost of logistics. But when you do this, we are doing a Delhi-Mumbai freight corridor, we're doing an Amritsar-Calcutta freight corridor. But on the both sides of this, when you create this new train, both sides of this, there's huge opportunity to create new cities of the future. And what the opportunity I got was to work around, plan, and develop, along with state governments, 7 new cities on either side and plan them as innovative, sustainable, smart cities of the future. And that was a huge, huge experience of embedding cities with technology, and much of that work is presently on. So in about 3 years, 3.5 years, India will see completely new 7 new cities, much like how Mumbai was created at one point of time, how Chennai was created at one point of time. As port cities, you'll see new cities emerging in India. Shendra near Aurangabad here, Dholera in Gujarat, city near Ujjain in Madhya Pradesh, one city beyond Noida. So all these are completely new greenfield cities which are being developed. Not only will they drive manufacturing, but they will drive urbanization in a sustainable manner. And one of the key challenges there was to empower these new cities with center and state government to have all the authority and all the power. The key to good urbanization is good monetization, and vest the city with those powers of municipal functioning, of planning, of monetizing land values, because otherwise, wherever urbanization has happened in India, either political parties have got rich or politicians have got rich. So you need to ensure that that money flows back into the city. As you create the trunk infrastructure. As you create the trunk infrastructure, land values go up. You should be able to capture that value and put it back into the city. That's the key. And that's where most of our cities have suffered. Our per capita income right now is $1,580. If as a country we continue to grow at 7%, in 2032, our per capita income will be $4,000. But if we grow at 10%, the per capita income of every Indian in 2032 will be $6,988. 6,000, that is the difference between 7% growth and 10% growth. The power of compounding is very enormous. And therefore, it's very important to understand that we must grow at rates of 10%. If you want poverty to be lifted in this country, there is no other substitute but growth, and there's no other substitute but India to have single-minded pursuit of growth of 10%. That's the key. And that cannot happen. That cannot happen without innovation. That cannot happen without disruption. And this can happen only if we make India a very easy and simple place to do business in. We've made India an extremely complex. Over the last 68 years, we've made India a highly complex, a highly difficult, and a very, very complicated place to do business in. Very difficult to do business in, and we treat every single businessman as a criminal till he proves otherwise. And therefore, it's very important that all that we have built up in the last 68 years, laws, rules, regulation, procedures, paperwork, all of these need to be dismantled, ruthlessly dismantled. I mean, unless and until you don't dismantle this, it'll be very difficult for entrepreneurs to grow and blossom. Each one of them will face a hurdle. You want a startup movement to grow and expand? Allow the freedom to fly. Without that, it will not happen. And therefore, the challenge was to make India one of the easiest and simplest places to do business in. So last year, we worked very hard on this across all the states. We worked very hard with central government. Very difficult to work with tax department. Even more difficult to work with customs, excise, all this, but we worked very hard. We made India jump up 12 positions in the ease of doing business. But we worked with the state governments. We called all the chief secretaries, said these are the 100 points. These are the 100 points on which we are going to evaluate states. All of them agreed. And we said we are going to evaluate these 100 points, all the states, and we'll name and shame the states at the end of it. So we did a ranking of the states last year. We ranked all states, huge competition took place, and we ranked all the states. We said these are the best performing states, these are the worst performing states. And this year, we've put out 340 parameters on which we are evaluating and ranking states. 340 parameters. And last year, Gujarat won by a whisker. Andhra, which is a new state, came right second. But the good thing was that Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh, which are mineral-rich states, came third and fourth. But this year, you take it from me, Gujarat will get beaten by Andhra. Andhra is working so hard, day in, day out, that they'll beat Gujarat. So there's a huge, huge competition. And the only way to improve India is to create a huge sense of competition amongst India. India is a vast country, and you need to create competition across a whole range of areas, across public hospitals, across schools. Challenge the states. Put everything in public domain. Put it on the net. Create the sense of competition and put everything on net, and India will improve. That's the only way India will move forward. And to my mind, this is what is needed today. And therefore, what it demonstrates is that the more you open up the economy, the more India will grow. And there is no substitute but to be an integral part of the global supply chain. And you have to make India compete. You have to be cost competitive. You have to make India compete, and we did that. So India has become the hub for research and development, a huge hub for research and development. And India is seeing the kind of energy and vitality which you rarely see through the startup movement. And then we said that we need to unleash this. It's happening in Bangalore, it's happening in Mumbai, it's happening in Pune, but you need to spread this movement across. And the only way you will make this happen is there are a couple of things which need to be done. Make it extremely easy for startups to register. And from the 1st of April, we said Prime Minister announced that we'll have a mobile app which will register all startups in one day flat. In one day, we'll register all startups. It takes 6 months to register a company, but for startups, we'll do it in exactly 1 day. We'll allow easy exit. Within 90 days, all startups, you have to fail to succeed. Each one of them, whether it's Steve Jobs, whether it's Bill Gates, all of them have failed in life. Without failure, you can't be a successful startup. So we said we must allow exit to take place. In the new bankruptcy law, we've invested that within 90 days you can exit. We said we'll create a completely new structure in our educational system. So we are opening up 500 tinkering labs. We are creating incubation centers in our universities and colleges. We are creating research parks in our IITs, simply because we said all these young people must become job creators rather than job seekers, and restructure your education system. Unless you don't restructure the education system, you need to dismantle your present education system. Till you don't do that, you can't have a scenario where you will make our young people go and do incubation. You will never be able to allow young students in school to see 3D printers or robots and so on, and that's the way smart manufacturing is going to grow. So allow them all to experience that, and that's how the education system is getting altered radically. And in 14th century, Amir Khusro, talking about India, he said how exhilarating is the atmosphere of India. There cannot be a better teacher than the way of life of its people. If any foreigner comes by, he will have to ask for nothing, because they treat him as their own, play an excellent host, and win his heart, and show him how to smile like a flower. And much like what Amir Khusro said of the 14th century, it was the flavor, the feel, the innovative spirit. It was the spirit of the people of India of the 14th century which made Amir Khusro feel proud of India at that point of time, and say that he was the greatest, it was the greatest thing that he was alive in a country like India. Each one of us has to feel the same way for India to become a great, innovative nation. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.